still going on, but it's now run through his Substack, I believe, potentially. If you look up his website, it will have information there.
I have been recently discovering Substack, and it is kind of cool, the number of queer authors that are on there writing stuff or sharing stuff that may become part of larger works. So yeah, I'll have to check that out on Substack. I just got my whole app and everything set up. Okay, let's see. So our second book.
Yeah.
Our recommendation.
Our second recommendation, our second memoir is called Born Both, An Intersex Life. This is by Hida Valoria. And earlier this year, you and I had talked about other intersex titles, and about how this is often an identity under the LGBTQ umbrella that tends to be a little more kind of marginalized and pushed off to the side, even in our communities. And so this, Valoria is actually one of the foremost intersex activists. They're one of the first persons to kind of live publicly as intersex. So this is their memoir. This is their story of how they encountered the term intersex, how their journey of discovering where they felt they fit with their gender, with that discovery. And yeah, it's a pretty important text by someone who's done a lot for the LGBTQ community by living out who they are.
I think this one, I don't want to say, I think all of the books are important, but this is someone that this is a book that I would really recommend right now, because part of it that is very interesting in there, and this is just from the book description, where Valoria says, "I grew up in the body I was born with because my parents did not have my sex characteristics, rather surgically altered at birth." And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that just this week or last week, Ohio passed some really sweeping, awful legislation that basically says there's only two genders, male and female, and there's all of this implications of that, but a complete erasure of the reality of intersex peoples. And this came up as well in the debates in Texas recently, where GOP legislators, MAGA legislators, were challenged by their Democratic colleagues and progressive colleagues to be like, do you understand how this affects this group of people? And literally there was one legislator that just stood there dumbfounded at the lectern and was like, I don't know what that is. And the Democratic legislature, they were debating each other on two sides of the not hall, the assembly, whatever it's called, where they're sitting there and they're convening. And then the MAGA was like, that doesn't exist. You're making that up. And he had to have his colleagues come over and say, no, intersex people, that's a thing. That's real. This is, people live, having all these variety of different, characteristics of both genders, multiple genders. So it is a very, I think, important book to add to your list right now more than ever, because a lot of folks are realizing that they don't know as much as they thought they did about gender identity. We are coming up on the end of our time. Abigail, this is so lovely to have you here for the past 3 months. I hope that we will be able to continue this conversation moving into the future. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right, folks, you can go to Melsa's Pride Book List, Melsa, melsa.org/pride-book list. For right now, coming up next on WCPT 820 is Choose Views with Richard Chu. On AM 950, it's the Matt McNeil Show. See you all next week.
A tree can be a warrior, battling global challenges with greater courage. A tree can be a solution, cleaning our air, supporting our communities, and protecting our wildlife. A tree can be noble, growing hope in every corner of the world. That's why now is the time for trees. Millions of trees. Join our planting movement at arborday.org.
What's on your to-do list? Check your mail? Get groceries? How about getting your annual vaccines? We can help you check that off.
You've got this.
Yes, you do. Because we've got you. With local vaccine events and access to transportation, protecting yourself and your loved ones is not a chore anymore.
You've got this.
A message from the Aging and Disability Vaccination Collaborative, powered by U.S. Aging. Funded by the U.S. Administration for Community Living through a grant to U.S. Aging. Learn more at yougotthis.usaging.org.
When you leave the office, catch up on what you missed on the way home with Patty Vasquez. Weekday afternoons from 5 to 7.
Because we have so much to talk about every day.
Driving it home with Patty Vasquez.
And as you would imagine, that would mean that folks want to call in and join the conversation.
Only on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. During Donald Trump's 2024 presidential campaign, and now even, he had his rallies where he poorly danced to the YMCA. Let's take a look at all the musicians who threatened to sue Donald Trump if he used any of their music at his rallies. ABBA, Adele, Aerosmith, Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Animals, Beyonce, Bruce Springsteen, Celine Dion, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Earth, Wind & Fire, Elton John, The Foo Fighters, Free, Guns N' Roses, Linkin Park, Neil Young, Nickelback, Olivia Rodrigo, Ozzy Osbourne, Panic at the Disco, Pharrell Williams, Phil Collins, and yes, that includes Genesis too, guys, The Estate of Prince, Queen, R.E.M., Rihanna, The Rolling Stones, Spinal Tap, Tom Petty, and Twisted Sister. So if you're looking to buy some records or go see a concert, I consider checking those artists out. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Facts matter now more than ever. This is WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We're your source for truth.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The BBC says it will stop working with MasterChef Greg Wallace in the future after a report found that 45 out of 85 misconduct allegations made against him were substantiated. The 60-year-old had stepped away from hosting the reality show last year after an investigation was launched. Multiple people have died after a fire at an assisted living facility in Fall River, Massachusetts. Flames trapped residents inside Gabriel House Sunday night, where about 70 people live. President Trump is meeting today with NATO's Secretary General. Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland yesterday, he said the U.S. would be sending sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine and voiced anger at Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there.
AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the European Union's reactions to Trump's surprise trade tariff.
European trade ministers are meeting in Brussels after US President Donald Trump announced 30% tariffs on the European Union. The tariffs against the EU could disrupt economies and raise prices on goods like French cheese and German electronics. Brussels has delayed retaliatory tariffs, initially set for Monday, to allow time for negotiations until the 1st of August. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen told reporters,
"We do not want any kind of trade war with US. It will be devastating, not just for the Americans, but also for Europe. So we don't want to escalate things. Then on the other hand, we also need to, I would say, flash some muscles."
Meanwhile, the EU is strengthening ties with Asia and South American nations, seeking to diversify its economic partnerships amid ongoing tensions with the US.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on Sotheby's Geek Week auction.
For sale, a 54-pound rock, estimated auction price $2 to $4 million. Sotheby's Cassandra Hatton explains why.
This Martian meteorite is the largest piece of Mars we have ever found, by a long shot.
And it kind of just looks like a rock.
We know that it was ejected from the red planet, likely from a massive asteroid strike.
She says sampling confirms it's from Mars. A meteorite hunter hit the mother lode in 2023, finding it in Niger. Also up for auction, Sotheby's has a juvenile dinosaur skeleton that's more than 6 feet tall and nearly 11 feet long.
This is one of only 4 Ceratosaurus in the world. The 3 other examples are in museums.
The estimate, $4 to $6 million. The auction, July 16th.
I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Tuesday, sunshine, high of 91 degrees. Wednesday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops with a high around 91. Tuesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
Porsche, power within your grasp. Feel the rush and find your new Porsche at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $1049 a month for 39 months. Visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $8,992 with sign. Excludes tax, title, license, and dock fee. No security deposit required. Expires 7/31/2025.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the July 14th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio are where you can find us and follow us and all that good stuff. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Catch me on Substack. Catch me on that thing called Blue Sky, that thing called Threads, and that thing called, I still hold it up at Twitter, X, just because it's a great place to find out what other craziness is going on. But most definitely catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, short and long interviews that we've done here on the show. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago and our other shows. And, of course, you can't enjoy your day and get progressive information without making your way over to heartlandsignal.com, which is our digital platform. Make your way over there. Lots of good stuff. On today's show, we will be busy. What else is new? Our guests include Reid McCollum, Progressive Turnout Project. Looking forward to chatting with him in the 6:30 hour. Alderman Andre Vasquez from the 40th Ward here in Chicago. Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA. And his guest will be Tori Hurst. So we're chatting with Rich and Tori in the 7:30 hour. Alderman Vasquez in the 7 o'clock hour. And very soon we'll be talking with Reid McCollum from Progressive Turnout Project. So looking forward to chatting with those guys and keeping you guys informed as to what's happening. But right now, we'll get the party started with a little bit of humor. So check this out, progressives.
You would be surprised by just how wildly wrong he can be when he is spouting alarming, official-sounding statistics.
We are 4.2% of the world's population. We buy 70% of the pharmaceutical drugs on Earth. 15% of American youth are now on Adderall or some other ADHD medication. When I was a kid, I always say this. The typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his lifetime. Today is 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door. 20 years ago, there was no diabetes in China. Today, 50% of the population is diabetic.
So here's the thing. All the numbers you just heard him say are bullshit. Americans don't buy 70% of the drugs on Earth. We buy around 6%. 15% of American youth aren't on ADHD meds. Estimates put it closer to 5%. 1 in 3 kids don't have diabetes. It's actually 0.35%, or 1 in 285 kids. And the rate of diabetes in China is roughly 12%, not, as I think you already know, 50%. Half of all the people in China do not have diabetes. And look, we have asked our researchers to fact-check some dumb shit before on this show. Last year, we literally emailed J.D. Vance's team to ask, has Senator Vance ever had sex with a couch? And has Senator Vance ever had sex with any other furniture or household items? But somehow that was still less embarrassing than writing to multiple diabetes experts this week and asking, do half the people in China have diabetes? And in return, getting a bunch of versions of no, and one response from a doctor that called Kennedy's statement ludicrous, adding, these stats might be related to the worm in his brain.
So, a little bit of humor to get us started, but and of course the insanity. I love the tail end of that with John Oliver on the worm that's in RFK Jr.'s brain. Yeah, it's a part of the administration. They just make crap up, and they make it sound like it's real and honest and intelligent, and it's not. It's just not. So I just thought, you guys would appreciate hearing that as we get out of the gate this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a good weekend. And I know that I did, because on Saturday I got to hang with some of my WCPT colleagues and, of course, some of the WCPT family that were guests and made it out to Max and Benny's up in Northbrook. It was great hanging out with you guys. It was great hanging out with Hal. And, I guess sometimes when I'm around comedians, my dark side, and not my dark side, because my dark side is a whole different description, but my silly side comes out. Let's put it that way. Not my dark side. My dark side is saved for when people act stupid and I have to, step in. But it was fun hanging with Hal, because Hal is a comedian and he's a funny guy, but he's also very plugged in, obviously, to the current events. And it was great hanging with him and Johnny Million and Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast, and of course Natalie Ziemba, who is the Woodstock City Councilman that is a friend of our show and our shows here on WCPT. So that was fantastic. But it was also great to see many of you guys who were there. This is the crazy thing, Henry. Obviously you start to remember people face first, name second. And then you meet someone and you get their name and you don't remember their name, but you remember their face. So for all the folks who were kind enough to come up to us and say hi and speak for a bit, to myself and to Hal and to Johnny, we appreciate that. I couldn't laundry list all the people who were there to stand in line to say hi, but thanks to all of you for that. And we appreciate your support. We appreciate your contribution to not only me and my show, but to the rest of the shows here on WCPT. I know Hal does. Most definitely appreciate you guys. So thanks for being there. Thanks for being supportive. Thanks for encouraging the work that we're doing to make sure that we are moving this ball down the field, to use another football analogy. But yes, some humor to start our Monday morning off. We got another one that we'll bring to you after the break, but we don't want you just laughing so hard this morning you're falling out of your chair or rolling out of your car. But John Oliver definitely makes it plain that RFK, like so many people in the administration, are full of malarkey. They don't know what they're talking about, and more importantly, they've gotten people to believe that they know what they're talking about, and that then adds to the flame of this crazy cult that's behind this Trump regime. And I'm trying my best to change up some of the words. I got a list that kind of put together of different ways of phrasing what's going on and calling it what it is. So I'm going to try not to use administration and use regime. I'm going to try to do my best to not refer to him as President Trump. Every now and again, I might be reading something that I have to do that, but we're going to work on that one. But today, as I said, we got a busy show. We got lots of folks that are going to be with us this morning, and we're excited to have them with us. Let's let's take a little bit of a quick break. When we come back, we'll hit you guys with some Choose Views news, another little comedy clip that I think will be good for your soul, and we'll keep it moving. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we will be right back.
One in 4 Americans have a disability. I'm one of them. I'm also a working mom who cares deeply about making sure every child with a disability thrives by getting their access needs met. We've got a trusted ally by our side. Easter Seals provides children and families the foundation for lifelong success through early learning programs, skills training, and prep for college and career. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours. Join us at easterseals.com.
WCPT replay.
Nathaniel George Booker, also known as the mayor of the village of Maywood, Illinois.
We have to stop walking in fear. There's nothing about this administration that's walking in fear, and energy has to match energy. And I feel like the fear and the concern that we're operating in versus the unity and coming together is truly what our strength is. There's so many opportunities to become more community engaged. And whether that be via virtual Zooms that are taking place in your communities, or whether those be in-person community meetings, we've got to stand up together. And nothing is done in a silo. So I tell people all the time, the dream work makes the team work is a real thing. And we've got to, as a community, as a country, come together more. And that will drive out the fear. That will drive out the hate, because there's power in numbers.
Keep listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. All right, a couple of Choose Views news items this morning, July 14th, 2025. The U.S. is going to impose, let me rephrase that, Donald Trump is going to impose 30% tariffs on goods from the European Union and Mexico starting August 1st. Trump announced on Saturday the EU can avoid the levies completely if those companies shift their production to the U.S., he added. That's actually extortion and bullying. It's bullying, extortion, all the rest. Mexico quickly responded to Trump's announcement, calling the duties unfair. Mexican Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard said his country is negotiating with the U.S. to avoid the 30% rate. Meanwhile, India is nearing a deal to keep their tariffs under 20%, according to Bloomberg. It's extortion, y'all. It just is. That's not partnership. It's not working together. Bosses are saying RTO workers say no. What do I mean by that? There's been a drumbeat of return to the office orders in recent months out of companies like Target, Amazon, and JP Morgan Chase. But even amid warnings about non-compliance, new survey data shows that the actual attendance is up 2% since 2024. It's not used to threatening employees, but when 2/3 of the U.S. companies still support hybrid arrangements, it says that there's some value there. Researchers say the average rate of college-educated employees working from home plateaued in 2022 and has become a lasting feature of the post-pandemic global labor market. Deal with the companies, help people navigate and make the workplace, and whether that be work from home or in part, a hybrid as they call it, make it work. Just get smarter. Come on. Target is widening their RTO push, and downtown Minneapolis is poised to get a bit busier this fall as retail giant Target calls more of its corporate employees back to the office after several piecemeal RTO orders for certain departments. The new mandate will require all employees from Target's commercial division, among the largest, to report to the headquarters 3 days a week, starting in September. The move comes amidst a continued tightening of in-office policies from major employers, as we just said. Worries grow among office workers. White-collar layoffs combined with the looming threats posed by AI are setting office workers on edge, according to Business Insider. Add the return to the office push and economic uncertainty, and you've got a recipe for, quote, office paranoia. As workers watch for signs their job may be cut, for example, is the hiring of more interns a good or a bad sign? It's all part of the pendulum swing of workplace power swinging away from workers since the pandemic, though taking actionable steps such as starting a job search could help. And for those of you who are movie buffs, Superman really kind of got out there and did some good stuff this weekend. The movie was very successful. Warner Brothers and DC Studios production has already notched the second biggest opening day of the year, going back to Friday, of course, earning $56.5 million in the earlier preview screenings for Amazon Prime members. Analysts now expect Superman to take home about $120 million from what was posted this weekend domestically and $210 million globally. So there you go. All right, guys, a couple of choose news views items for this Monday, July 14th, 2025. As always, thanks for being with us. I want to talk about a couple quick current event items, and then we'll hit you with another little bit of comedy this morning in the space of politics, if you will. Just kind of running down the line. Even now, people are realizing that this whole situation around the Epstein files is blowing up in the face of not just the administration or the regime, but also some of the supporters through MAGA. So the chant these days, or in these last few days, has been release the Epstein files, because that's what they said they were going to do. And then, of course, Pam Blondie said that the Epstein files is sitting on Henry's desk, and I'll go catch up with Henry and see if I'll be able to release them soon. And Henry said, here they are. And she's like, oh, well, no, there are no Epstein files. I was wrong office. Henry said, no, here they are. Now they're trying to say that the Epstein files did exist, but they were forgeries created by Obama and Hillary. So there's no need to talk about them ever again. So the files existed, but they were forgeries. So the point of all this is that many of the folks, I shouldn't say many because I don't know if that's a majority. I'm going to say there are people in the MAGA world that are upset about it because of the promises made and the promises not kept. Could the Epstein files debacle be the thing? I don't know. We talked about this a little bit on Saturday. And I just want to say this because there are far more important things than the Epstein files. Snatching babies from their mom's arms, going into people's places of work, and then putting people in a concentration camp in Florida is more important in my mind than the Epstein files. The Epstein files are another product of the disgustingness of Donald Trump and his regime. That being said, we talked about it on Saturday, and one of the things that I said, and Hal commented on this as well, it isn't about the Epstein files, Henry, from the perspective of let's see what Donald Trump did or didn't do. Because if they couldn't say no to him after hearing a tape of what he's done to and what he would do to women, that the Access Hollywood tape, if that wasn't enough, that by itself, or teasing a gentleman who happens to have a handicap, if that wasn't enough, like Meryl Streep said during the awards show a couple years ago, then this Epstein file thing is not about what's in it on Trump. It's what I said on Saturday. It's they want to see that me and Hal and Hillary and Barack and, they want to see that Democrats are in the files and Democrats are on the flight logs, and that they want to be able to use that as a tool to trash Democrats. That is why they want the files. It has nothing to do with it being a thing that they want truth with regard to Trump. It's nothing. Trust me when I tell you that. That has nothing to do with finding out more information that's going to suddenly change their mind about Donald Trump. Because they've had more than enough information, more than enough legal realities where they should have said, I'm done. But they didn't. They want to be able to dig into those files and say, see, we told you all the Democrats are awful. They're disgusting people. And they're in the Epstein files. So the reason that this is a conversation is because of that. That's why MAGA is where they are. I'm going to talk with Rich Logis a little bit about that as part of the conversation around being in this Listen, I can't not say cult because some people have defined it. Some people who are in it may not want to think of it that way, but some people who are psychologically, sociologically smarter and more educated in that space would say that it is a cult. Now, Rich and I will talk about that when we have him on at 7:30. I know that that's not a word that they like to use. But I am curious what he thinks about this, why people really want to see what's in the Epstein files. And we'll see if we can talk about that. Our man, Senator Alex Padilla, really got after the regime. See, I got it right. I didn't say administration. Got after the regime this week when Tom Homan was apparently on MSNBC talking to Dana Bash about the being picked on, if you will, and how it's unsafe for members of that department, that division, because of the way in which he's being talked about and whatever. But Senator Padilla wasn't having it. Later on, he spoke on State of the Union about how, hey, listen, dude, buck up. You're mistreating people this way, and you're handling people in a way that's disrespectful to them and to their humanity. You got to be prepared to deal with it. So I thought it was great to see Senator Alex Padilla essentially slam the administration and more specifically slamming Tom Homan, who needs to be slammed in maybe different ways. But there you go. And then another current topic that I'll just throw out to you guys, and it's the embarrassment factor. Now, what do I mean by that? The embarrassment factor. Kristi Noem tried to defend her flood response. She tried to defend the timing of it and saying that people weren't answering phones and they were doing, and obviously that's a bunch of malarkey. Thank you, President Joe Biden. It's a bunch of malarkey. They didn't do the job that they're tasked at doing. And part of the reason is that she doesn't know what she's doing. And she is continuing to be an embarrassment to the department, to the, quote, regime, and to the country. She just continues to be that. And how she responded during this interview to all the unanswered phone calls, it's just crazy. An embarrassment. They're all an embarrassment. She's an embarrassment. Caroline Levitt's an embarrassment. And you know what as well. You can figure out what I'm saying or not saying. And you know who else is an embarrassment? It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump is, in addition to us having all this dislike and frustration and anger and fear, legitimate to all those words, of this regime, he's also just a flat out embarrassment. I mean, first of all, he would probably break every bone in his body if he stepped on a soccer field in the first doggone place. But to immerse himself in the award ceremony of the World Cup and to stand there when these young men who had earned their right to be on that stage and pretend that he's part of the event and clapping and looking stupid and disconnected, it's just a flat out embarrassment. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. MAGA, your boy is an embarrassment. You should be, for him to, he's not the world leader. More importantly, he's not part of what that ceremony was all about. It wasn't at the White House. It wasn't, just go away, dude. You're an embarrassment. In addition to being an imbecile, disgusting, awful, craven person, you're an embarrassment. You should not have even have been there. Now, I blame the officials for even inviting his, PAB. But, yeah, he's an embarrassment, y'all. I have to stop myself because the words I would use would not be appropriate in further describing it. They're all an embarrassment. They're disgusting embarrassments to the United States of America. Kristi is, Caroline is, Pam is, Hegseth is, Holman. They're all embarrassments. Besant, they are all embarrassments. Even what's the chief of staff, all of them. So we'll add some humor as we get to the end of this segment. Let's give them the humor about Trump. Jesus.
Your whole cabinet was built on transparency and draining the swamp.
Yeah, I just can't believe a guy that paid off a corn star who he was cheating on his wife with while she's pregnant. A guy that grabbing women who said he wished his daughter wasn't his so he could have sexual relations with her. A guy who said he used to go backstage at the Miss Teen USA pageant whenever he wanted when they were undressing. I was just positive he was going to release the Epstein files because his history of sexual ethics has been on par with Jesus's. And there's just no possible way he's on there. I felt his innocence in my spirit. Even when he lied about the results of the election in 2020 and incited a riot on our nation's capital, I still thought he's good people. I mean, he was only found liable of sexual abuse in civil court. And that ain't like real court, you know? Well, back to my Bible. Maybe there's a Jesus parable in there that talks about how people who think they're following him are actually being misled by false prophets and false messiahs. Then again, I'm just too smart to fall for something like that.
Yes, MAGA, you got duped. Admit it. Admit that you got duped. It will, free your mind, and you know what else will follow. You got duped, and you got duped because you were prone to it. And there's a part of you that wanted to do things and be a part of a group of people that was going to hurt other folks. And unless they came and became part of your group, you had no real care or love for them. So, like this gentleman said in this clip, maybe reread parts of the Bible, reread the Bible, and not just take parts of it out that fit your narrative. None of us should do that. But there's a stream of consciousness with MAGA that definitely is doing that. So, all right, guys, we are going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. When we come back, we'll be talking to one of those really smart political people, Reid McCollum from Progressive Turnout Project. We'll be right back.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-921-8189. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-921-8189. 800-921-8189. 800-921-8189.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Tuesday, sunshine, high of 91 degrees. Wednesday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops with a high around 91. Tuesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 67.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Progressives, liberals, Democrats, Republicans, independents, all of you all who are just tired of what's going on with this crazy regime. But at the same time, understand that you've got a seat at the table to do some work, and to part of that, I believe, is to make sure that 36%, and I believe I got my numbers right, of people that did not participate in this last general election find their way to the table. And one of the individuals here in Illinois that's really leaning into that and having an impact on it is the outreach director for Progressive Turnout Project and co-founder of Postcards to Swing States, and that would be Reid McCollum, also a big part of the Democratic Party of DuPage County. Good morning, Reid, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. It's great to be on.
Absolutely.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, man. That's right. July 14th. Can you believe that? Halfway through the year and 2 weeks in. So, well, listen, you guys have been doing so much great work, meaning the Democratic Party of DuPage County. And I know that you have served with the organization for a while, and you brought some really great, innovative ideas to the Democratic Party in general, or at least some ideas that you want to see the Democratic Party in general take on. But at the same time, what you guys have been doing in DuPage County has really been impactful. Talk a little bit about, you talk about the organization, that being the Dems of DuPage County. Let our listeners know a little bit more about you and the work that you guys are doing.
Sure. Well, just quickly about me, I started getting active in politics about 9 years ago after Donald Trump became president the first time. So I was part of an effort to flip the 6th congressional district back when we elected Sean Casten and got rid of Peter Roscom, and really learned how much of a difference you can make as a volunteer. And I was just so angry that Trump was our president that I just had to do something. And what I realized, what a lot of people realize, is that by taking action, it makes you feel a lot better about the world that we're living in, to know that you're doing your part to fight back. So I founded Postcards to Swing States as a volunteer 2020. We've now had hundreds of thousands of volunteers across the country write 100 million postcards to make sure that people who align with the Democratic values, get out and actually vote in key elections. And then, last fall, I got elected as the chair of the Democratic Party of DuPage County. We've been doing a lot of great work there to get volunteers active on the ground, to make sure that we are winning the local elections, where really the front line of defense against the sort of horrible policies that Trump's enacting and budget cuts. And in the most recent April 1st local elections, we had 49 Democrats on the ballot. All 49 of them won.
That's amazing. That's just flat out amazing. Reid, so let me ask you this question. And we may come back to this as we wrap up. Why is volunteering so important in your experience, in your observation?
Well, if we look at the Republican Party and what the right does, they have just a trillion-dollar propaganda machine that's always on across the country. And a lot of folks say, oh, well, the Democrats need to talk about this issue or that, or the messaging's not right. We just don't have the megaphone for that kind of strategy. We are a bottom-up party that needs grassroots folks in every community delivering our message and fighting for our values and having those conversations with voters in their own lives, going door to door, making phone calls, talking to their friends and family. And so we just have to be a grassroots party that can break through those lies and that propaganda.
For the people who, and I know I would presume you encounter this, the people that say, yeah, I want to do something, I just don't know what to do, which direction to turn, because it seems like there's so many things that are coming at us, coming at me. And then, unfortunately, part of human nature to some extent is to go into their silo. How do you navigate and help folks not go into their silo, or if they're in their silo, come out and be involved? What are some of the things that you use to make that, or to affect that?
It helps to break it into pieces for people, and I mean that in a couple different ways. First of all, Trump obviously won in most of the swing states last year, but people don't realize how narrow it was. We only lost the House of Representatives by 7,310 votes in 3 congressional districts. And so the amount of additional volunteer energy that would have allowed us to hold on to the House, which would have prevented the passage of this big, ugly, horrible bill, was very, very close. And then there are volunteer options for people, in just whatever sliver of time sort of works for them. If they're really busy or they just can't, it's overwhelming. You don't realize sort of taking action and being part of the solution feels really good and allows you to really not just totally check out from politics. postcards and writing postcards is one of the easiest ways to get involved. We call it sort of the gateway to activism because you can just write a few every day, while you're cooking dinner. When you wake up in the morning and you're drinking your coffee, listen to the radio, you can be writing postcards. And we know they're effective because we measure how effective they are. When we write millions of them, those add thousands and thousands of votes in key elections. How do you measure and know? I mean, I've had friends and family and other colleagues that have been a part of it. I myself have. But how are you going about determining their effectiveness? And what is the definition, I should say, of effectiveness when it comes to, let's say, for example, the postcard writing? Yeah. So the general, most of the postcards we write, the goal of the postcards is to get people to go vote who, if they vote, are very likely to vote for Democrats. So they're just extremely likely to vote for Democrats. We know that based on modeling. So what we're looking for when we measure how effective they are is, did they go vote? And we do that through what's called just a randomized controlled trial, where basically we have, a statistical study where we look at, this group of people receives postcards and then an identical group of people don't. And we just look at the difference in turnout in the election that we're sending postcards ahead of. And that's the same kind of approach that a pharmaceutical company will use to measure the effectiveness of like the COVID vaccine. And we do this with millions and millions of voting households. And, there's about 20 years of really strong science, statistical evidence behind all of the, ways that we reach out to voters and sort of measuring that from a turnout program standpoint. On a greater scale or bigger scale, I mean, you are at the head of the table when it comes to outreach and work with the DuPage County Democratic Party. Let's broaden your. I mean, if I were to say, Reid, okay, the world's your oyster, or as my late father-in-law used to say, if I ruled the world, how do you take this message and make it something that's impactful on a state level or national level? I mean, you're running a part of the state's democratic machine, if you will, democratic effort. Let's talk about that broadly on the state level, on a national level, and how you think that there would be the success that we need to get that 36% that didn't participate in the last national election, general election, involved. I mean, for me, it is so much just like a logistical problem. One of my favorite quotes is actually from General Omar Bradley, which is, amateurs talk about strategy, professionals talk about logistics. And, we spend too much time as Democrats just wringing our hands and agonizing about what the right message should be or what we didn't do correctly in the last election. And, we know the problems. It's mostly this idea, like I said, that the Republicans have this overwhelming propaganda machine, and we have to counter it with real conversations. And so we can win every election by bringing in more volunteers and more people into the process of helping us get Democrats elected. When we sort of point the finger and say the Democrats should do this or they should do that, they sort of have a misunderstanding of who the they is, because it's us. There's no right. Like, I know. Thank you for saying that. I didn't mean to cut you off, brother, but I had to dive in with you. Yeah, we got to stop beating ourselves up and go, okay, we know that may have been the problem or the thing that happened, but now how are we going to navigate forward and not keep doing that thing? And that thing is constantly criticizing without a game plan that's implementable, to make up a word, to go forward and go get those people that didn't participate. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I mean, it's like I know Ken Martin, I know the people at the DNC, and I know how few of them are there, and they're working their butts off, and we need to do the same. I just finished watching Andor with my wife while my daughters are at summer camp, and it's like Star Wars really is the right analogy for this battle that we're part of, and it just seems silly to me to think about after a rebel action against the Death Star. Well, they didn't do this right, they didn't do that right. It's like sign up for this is the resistance. Like it's not going to be perfect. We don't have the best tools. We're outgunned. We just it literally is like that to me. But we got every the people. Day. Yeah, well, we need more. We need more people. That's what we need more than anything. It's not the message. It's people. It's the things that we can convert into votes, which is people. It's money. It is people's time and their skills.
Yeah, I mean, it's refreshing to hear, because sometimes I think I'm crazy. I don't think I'm crazy, but I think when I'm saying people think I'm crazy. When I talk about the importance of folks getting involved and getting in the fight, because our message, David Jolly said this shortly after the election, and I think it's very, we've had him on the show and we talked about this as well. Our message, our ideas, our plan, our goal for certain types of legislation, whether it be right here in Cook or DuPage or any of our counties, McHenry, all the rest, is spot on for the largest majority of people in the country. That's the same thing I believe on a national level. But we have to have more folks involved in the process, because when we have those numbers, it's a numbers game and we win the numbers game. And so volunteering on the front end of that is a big part of it. And that's why I wanted to ask you, why is volunteering so important? We're talking with Reid McCollum, who is the outreach director for Progress Turnout Project, and also the chair of the Democratic, the DuPage County Democratic Party. Reid, let me ask you a couple other questions in terms of what you guys are doing and things that you're working on. I know that is it today or tomorrow that you guys have another tool in the toolkit that you're working on, which is a protest sign event. Is that today or is that tomorrow?
It's today. Yeah, we have people come into our office in Carroll Stream, every couple of weeks and make protest signs. We've been organizing a lot of the protests along with grassroots groups out here to make sure that, we're not just focused on upcoming elections, but really demonstrating the outrage we have for the unconstitutional and authoritarian actions and policies that Trump is employing that are just hurting people in our county, across the state, across the country, in defiance of law and order and the Constitution.
Where is that going to be? You said it's in Carroll Stream, so it's going to be at your office there? Did I have that right?
Yeah, our office is at 885 East Geneva Road in Carroll Stream. People can drop by this evening. I'll give you the hours here. It's during our normal business hours today from 12 to 3. We have upcoming postcard writing parties at our office, but the program that I run with Progressive Turnout Project, Postcards to Swing States, people can order postcards and we'll mail them to you for free. So there's so many different ways that people get involved. But yeah, if you live in DuPage County, come swing by, meet some good folks, make some protest signs this afternoon if you're available. It's from 12 to 3 at 885 East Geneva Road in Carroll Stream.
That's going to be exciting. I wish I could make it out there today. I can't, but I definitely wanted to be able to give you an opportunity to talk about it. Some of the platforms, and this is a little bit of not a pivot, but just sort of an add-on to our conversation around Progressive Turnout Project. But the DuPage, the Democrats of DuPage have always been a voice in the region. And I would ask you, what do you think right now are your biggest, I don't want to say singular concern, but your biggest concerns right now when it comes to the effectiveness and what the DuPage County Dems can be doing to change the narrative and to get more people involved in this process?
Yeah, I mean, DuPage has been on a transformative journey over the past 10 years or so because folks here really do generally understand how horrible Donald Trump is, and that's been to our advantage. We went from being one of the reddest counties in the whole country to a county that has a Democratic supermajority on its county board. Every member of Congress from DuPage is a Democrat. We're really working to build capacity to make sure that we, win key races like for sheriff, some of the judge races. We've won so many of those. And, ultimately, like when folks across Chicago go help out in places like Michigan and Wisconsin for presidential elections, we want to be part of that and making sure that DuPage is so blue that we can send people to, swing states and everything like that. So, I mean, the biggest focus that I've got right now is really just making sure we got candidates up and down the entire ballot for next year and, continue to have Democratic majority on our county board, because there are so many policies that come up at the county level that really protect people that are vulnerable in our communities with really tight budgets, with these things like the fiscal cliff, with the federal money running out. So it's really important we have Democrats. Even though we're in a blue state, counties that have Democratic majorities are going to protect their citizens better than others.
So what is it? What would you say has been the secret sauce for that shift to get to a point to have a supermajority, other than how awful Donald Trump is and his regime, if we want to call it an administration? What is it that has become unique about DuPage County and the Democrats that serve there to make that or create that supermajority?
I think people see what Democratic leadership looks like. I mean, I think the chair of our board, Deb Conroy, who's done a fantastic job, supported by Democrats and Republicans, and the 12 Democrats that we have leading our county board each and every day, putting in good policies, opening up a mental health crisis clinic that is supporting people in the community with mental health issues. They can come in anytime. The Crisis Recovery Center is just one example of the sort of kind of policy that Democrats led the charge on, and often with the support of some Republicans, because it's the kind of thing that just makes sense, is to make sure that people that need emergency services for mental health have a place to go in DuPage County. So showing sort of that government can be effective, but also, fiscally responsible to protect people and leading on our values and turning that into results has been, a big part of it. And the rest of it, to be blunt, is just that Donald Trump is an authoritarian, monstrosity. And, in the well-educated counties where people get less propaganda and more real news, they've been turning away from the Republican Party as a result for the last 10 years.
Well, and I guess that's probably where a lot of folks who are supportive of the Democratic Party here in Cook, Lake, DuPage, state of Illinois, have said, well, what the heck happened then? If that's the case, and not saying I don't believe you, because I do believe you and I see the data, then what the heck happened in those 7 swing states in this national election? I mean, I want to get your take on that. What do you see that happened? You mentioned earlier the small margins and all that, and then, voter turnout. But what else do you think happened?
I mean, I can say this with, as sort of an expert that works in federal politics in swing states. Like that's my day job. I spent most of the last 2 years working with county Democratic Party chairs and grassroots groups and folks on the ground. And I spent Election Day in Northeast Philly organizing volunteers for the Harris campaign. I think it's easy to lose sight of we know what works, and we need a little bit more of it. We ended up losing by, just 129,000 votes in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And, I think the overwhelming fact was that voters perceived Biden is too old. The Democrats didn't have sort of a coherent economic message that people believed in. And with Kamala Harris taking over with 90 days, there was a surge of enthusiasm in places like Philadelphia, states like Georgia, North Carolina. It was just too little too late. Like, we had gotten pulverized in terms of voter registration in places like Pennsylvania for the entire cycle. Republicans were just registering far more voters. And this was a cycle where there was just no large-scale effort to do partisan voter registration in places like Pennsylvania, which was just a huge gap in the winning effort. And, voters were just very, very ticked off because of the cost of living and, and the inflation and the pandemic that we came out of. And you saw this around the world, is just every single election that happened during that time frame, the party in power got generally wiped out, whether they were a conservative government or a moderate government or a liberal government. They just lost overwhelmingly. And so we narrowly, and we almost won an election that we really had no business winning because of those headwinds. And so, it could have been anything that would have led us to pull it out. But I think people should be hopeful that when Donald Trump's doing things like, going to kick 17 million people off of Medicaid, passing trillion-dollar tax cuts for the wealthiest people in this country, that it won't do it on its own. But those are the headwinds. We can take advantage of that, and as long as we follow through and make sure voters understand what Republicans are actually fighting for, which is just the wealthy and corporations, then we should win these close elections instead of losing them.
And I think that's the go forward message. I don't spend a lot of time over analyzing what happened. I have my observations, and many of them are like yours. At the same time, I also recognize that there's some other factors that play into that in terms of gender and culture and racial economics that played a part of this as well. But at the end of the day, the one thing that is consistent is that the Republicans have not delivered on anything that they said they were going to deliver, which was supposed to be their secret sauce and the reason that they would do a better job. And now voters are realizing that not only were the Republicans not truthful, or just call it as it is, they lied, but the voters were also disenfranchised and are becoming further that way because of those lies. And so you're right. The headwinds should be shifting. Hopefully, we are going to do the pickup work with the volunteering and all the people involved to say, let's pick up all these pieces, let's put it together, and be optimistic about going forward to solve this problem. I'm like you in that regard. I'm always looking forward and how we can make things better for the future, but we have to do it by getting people out and participating in the process. Folks can't stay at home. That's no longer, it's not an option. It's not even a choice. You got to get out. So that's why I appreciate your work, and turnout is a big part of the wording of what you guys are doing. So thank you for that, Reid. As we wrap up, help our listeners get a sense of how they can get involved, how they can be ones that are part of the project, and they can, come and team up with you guys.
Yeah, well, I'll give you the two most relevant websites for the work that I do. One is if people want to order postcards right now this year, they can write postcards to help us make sure we win the key elections in Virginia, which has a governor's races for their state legislature, and then New Jersey and Pennsylvania has a critical Supreme Court retention election in November. So you can order postcards for there at turnoutpack.org/postcards. turnoutpack.org/postcards, or you could just Google postcards to swing states. And then if you live in DuPage County, get involved, get on our newsletter. Go to DuPageDemocrats.com, sign up for our newsletter. There's a whole section on ways to get involved and be part of our effort to keep DuPage blue.
Fantastic. Well, Reid, McCollum, thanks for being with us this morning. Look forward to having you back, because this is an ongoing effort, and I know you guys are going to continue to sharpen the tool to make it even better for folks that want to be involved. So thanks for being with us this morning, Reid. We appreciate all that you do.
Thanks so much.
All right. Have a great day. Bye now. All right, Henry, there you go. Reid's definitely got his thumb on the pulse, I believe, of what why activity is important, why getting involved, staying involved is critically important. And that, we all have our observations about how to get certain things done, but the one thing that always matters to me is, what are you doing to get things done and to get people involved? And Reid McCollum and his group are making that happen. A couple quick things to remind you of. Live, Local, and Progressive. Today, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Lee Littman, author of Lawless, How the Supreme Court Runs on Conservative Grievance, Fringe Theories, and Bad Vibes. Cameron Stevenson, national correspondent in Washington, D.C. for Courier, and former Illinois Congressman and former Republican Joe Walsh. I always chuckle with Joe Walsh. That's Joan Esposito, Live, Local, and Progressive, today, 2 to 5 p.m. here on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years and a couple of months. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by co-host Gwen LaRocca. And their guests will include Casey Lucchese, president of Peoria Proud and chair of River City Pride Festival, which is taking place on this coming Saturday, July 19th. And comedian Jaime De Leon and Carrie Powell, owner of Method Seattle. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 here on WCPT, Heartland Signal, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then tomorrow, you want to be with us because we will have Illinois Congressman and candidate for U.S. Senate Raja Krishnamurthy and Eric Heineman, CEO of Windfree Solar. So with that all being said, which was a mouthful, let's take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. We'll be right back.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure. Dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow. With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California or from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, tools, home essentials, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online now through July 18th. Not a rewards member? Join for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The BBC says it will stop working with Master Chef Greg Wallace in the future after a report found that 45 out of 85 misconduct allegations made against him were substantiated. The 60-year-old had stepped away from hosting the reality show last year after an investigation was launched. Multiple people have died after a fire at an assisted living facility in Fall River, Massachusetts. Flames trapped residents inside Gabriel House Sunday night, where about 70 people live. President Trump is meeting today with NATO's Secretary General. Speaking to reporters at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland yesterday, he said the U.S. would be sending sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine and voiced anger at Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Because Putin really surprised a lot of people. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there.
AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the European Union's reactions to Trump's surprise trade tariff.
European trade ministers are meeting in Brussels after US President Donald Trump announced 30% tariffs on the European Union. The tariffs against the EU could disrupt economies and raise prices on goods like French cheese and German electronics. Brussels has delayed retaliatory tariffs, initially set for Monday, to allow time for negotiations until the 1st of August. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen told reporters,
"We do not want any kind of trade war with the US. It will be devastating, not just for the Americans, but also for Europe. So we don't want to escalate things. Then on the other hand, we also need to, I would say, flash some muscles."
Meanwhile, the EU is strengthening ties with Asia and South American nations, seeking to diversify its economic partnerships amid ongoing tensions with the US.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports on Sotheby's Geek Week auction.
For sale, a 54-pound rock, estimated auction price $2 to $4 million. Sotheby's Cassandra Hatton explains why.
This Martian meteorite is the largest piece of Mars we have ever found. by a long shot.
And it kind of just looks like a rock.
We know that it was ejected from the red planet, likely from a massive asteroid strike.
She says sampling confirms it's from Mars. A meteorite hunter hit the mother lode in 2023, finding it in Niger. Also up for auction, Sotheby's has a juvenile dinosaur skeleton that's more than 6 feet tall and nearly 11 feet long.
This is one of only 4 Ceratosaurus in the world. The 3 other examples are in museums.
The estimate, $4 to $6 million. The auction, July 16th.
I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Tuesday, sunshine, high of 91 degrees. Wednesday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops with a high around 91. Tuesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 67.
That's the sound of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, saving you money and energy. With rebates on Energy Star appliances, so you can come back to a home full of savings. Discover more ways to save at ComEd.com/home savings. ComEd, powering lives.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. And of course, this is Choose Views, 773-763-9278. That is the Credo mobile phone and text line. Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. And make sure you stay tuned, of course, after my show for our WCPT progressive lineup, which includes, of course, my radio sister on the West Coast, Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, the professor of everything progressive, Joan Esposito, live local and progressive, and Patty Vasquez, my bookend that's driving you home. Our local and state officials and local group and organization leaders are doing wonderful work, like Reid, who was with us just a moment ago, and also so many of our committee folks and so many of our aldermen and alderwomen here in the Chicago metropolitan area and Cook County are just doing wonderful work in their leadership. And with us this morning is alderperson of the 40th Ward, Chicago's own Andre Vasquez. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. A little bit of echo in the background, just to be aware of that. But Great to have you with us this morning, and great to have you part of the show. I know that you have been one of those, I will say, newer, refreshing voices and leaders in this current, a challenging time that we're a part of. But take a quick moment. Let some of our listeners know about you and the work in the 40th Ward that you're doing right now.
Sure. Yeah. So the 40th Ward, for those who may not know, is kind of like the northeast side of town. So we're talking Andersonville, Edgewater, Lincoln Square, Bowmanville, West Ridge, West Rogers Park area. I've been in office now 6 years, through the pandemic, through the MAGA mission, and through the times we have now. My main focus when running was housing affordability and police accountability. But since that time, also grown to do a lot more good government work and like digging into budgets, knowing how they affect everything. And so it's I never thought I'd be here. So as a son of immigrants, I never thought about running for office up until about 2015, 2016, when Bernie Sanders kind of motivated a number of us to get more engaged. And here we are now, trying to make sure we lead through these times and help develop future leaders.
Well, I have to have a little bit of fun with you for a moment, given this weekend was such a big weekend when it comes to music, and a little bit about, your background and some of the things that you did years ago that I guess in some ways probably shaped your some of your current political and social beliefs. You were definitely a big hip hop and music guy. And this weekend we celebrated, some of the soul and some of the house music and all the rest here in Chicago. Yeah. You again, one of Chicago's own. That had to put a smile on your face.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about how a lot of us become influenced here in Chicago, it is such a soulful, musical city. And yeah, I was a hip hop artist for a good amount of time when I was younger, and I did actually get a lot of political learning listening to Public Enemy and Nas and KRS-One and some of the 90s hip-hop. So, yeah, also to see the Chosen Few picnic this weekend and really seeing community come together. It is heartwarming, especially when we're dealing with so many challenges, to see community come together and rejoice.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about, Alderman, for such a long time, is that the thing that's happening right now from a federal level, it's to take away, to pull away us as a community and to separate us and to some extent try to get us to fight against each other rather than fight forward. And you've really been a big proponent of that with regard to some of the things you've leaned into with immigrant and refugee rights, with transportation, and just being a real voice, not just in the Latino community, but for the greater community at large here in Chicago and the state of Illinois. Talk a little bit about that, and talk a little bit about how you've used those organizations to help pull more people together.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of stated it very clearly, that obviously some of the intent of what's happening in this moment is to divide and to traumatize people, right? We've gone through challenges like this before, but it's never been on your phone 24/7. That every single day, every single minute, you're seeing this, and it's meant to divide. It's meant to cause harm, really, and get people distracted. And so in order to counterbalance that, what I've learned in my life, and we try to make sure that people are reminded of, is community tends to combat all of that. That when you look at the fact that all of us want to feel safe in our homes, we want to be able to pay our bills, to make sure that our kids are doing well, that those are very universal values and concepts. And although we may have, different particular struggles we're dealing with, it's all one larger shared struggle when you look at the kind of challenges we all face, right? If you're watching like the big horrible bill that passed in Congress and recognizing it could affect your health care, it could affect your ability to sustain, those are concepts we can all understand. And so when we see the federal government kind of weaponizing the military and coming to the point where now they're coming domestically to cause disruption, these are all things we should all be worried about and understand we need to work together to address them.
Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to mention, this past weekend on Saturday, we had a remote broadcast with one of our colleagues, Hal Sparks, and we were up at this restaurant in Northbrook called Max and Benny's. And one of the things that we talked about is the importance of making our pushback, our fight, making it personal, simplifying it. And you talk about this in terms of making things transparent and easy for people to understand. And so you just said this a moment ago. Let's talk about how the bill literally is going to take XYZ from people in all communities. Let's talk about this conversation around immigration coming to your neighborhood. Let's talk. The more we can simplify it and the conversation and then bring people together around that simplification, I think as a progressive, liberal, democratic conversation, we are much more effective in that area. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think, when we think about the categories, right, we're left or we're right, or I think those tend to, and not on purpose, cause their own levels of division, right? When you talk to somebody about what it feels like not to be able to live past check to check, that has no partisanship to it,
right?
And when we talk about not only simplifying the concepts, but reminding people, right? What we're watching now is the same thing that the Japanese went through when they came to this country, when they were in internment camps, or the same thing that you were seeing in Germany in the 1930s. It's the beginning and the echoes of that same kind of dynamic that sometimes we have to remind people, because when you're so lost in your own challenges of how hard it is to sustain, you're not seeing the bigger picture of how these tools are currently being created. And they may be coming for the undocumented populations now, but as we saw on, I believe, Friday or Thursday, they showed up at a Puerto Rican history museum, and Puerto Ricans are citizens, right? Or they're already arresting citizens. That it needs the moment for all of us to understand that they might be coming for all of us. And when we see that, we can work together in a better manner. And so it's not about data points more than like what people feel in their gut is happening.
Yeah, and I appreciate you putting it that way. That it, we've all heard versions or ways that we sort of say that the old poem about they came for, the guy down the street, they came for the lady next door. The next thing you know, they were not, on my door. They were coming for me. Yeah. And in each case, I didn't step up for that person. And because of that, now they've come for me. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about the importance of just simplifying it and making it, transparent and letting everybody know that we all have a stake in this. And you've done such a great job in your ward of representing that. Let's talk a little bit about the ICE raids, only in the sense that you have really been out front with your various committees and making sure that the hearings are being held to talk about ways of supporting not just those who are viewed as undocumented immigrants, but also the people that are in that surrounding community and how they're impacted by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I say pretty regularly that in this country, you got three kinds of people if you really want to look at it. You've got the indigenous population whose land was stolen from them, right? You've got those who are descendants of people who were stolen from their land and enslaved here and built this country, and literally everyone else. Everyone else is either an immigrant or a descendant of an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
And we often forget that. We often forget that when the Irish came, they were not treated like Americans. When the Italian came, when the Polish came, right? It's part of the history. So something that we do our hearings is remind people of that history. We also want to make sure that we give people updates on what's happening at the federal level, because as we know, it's always changing. But also thinking about how the city, which is a welcoming city, lives up to those values. And so for some folks, just as a reminder, the welcoming city just means that CPD, the Chicago Police Department, will not coordinate or give information to ICE. That's the extent of it. And so we have to make sure that that's enforceable, that we're able to track any interactions between ICE and CPD when ICE raids do occur, to give people the accountability necessary to know that the officers are doing what their job is, because you need to know calling balls or strikes when they're doing things right, and be able to make adjustments when they're doing things that could be improved.
Is it, how do I want to say this? Can folks, Alderman, go to can they simply Google the Welcoming City Ordinance to learn more about it? Is that doable?
Yeah, they can also come. Our committee has a website where we post up all this information and kind of like break things down. It's welcometochicago.org.
Okay.
So you can just go there and learn what's been happening, when the next hearings are. You can tune in because they're live streamed. We also do regular weekly updates on what's happening, and we stream those as well. So all the information anyone would need would be at welcometochicago.org.
That's fantastic. We've had some great events taking place this weekend, not this weekend, but this spring, summer, which we're all noted for. We all get excited about. You're a native of Chicago, so once, St. Patrick's Day hits, then we start thinking about, Easter and the change of the weather, and we get to Memorial Day, and then we've got our next 90 to 120 days of nothing but events here in Chicago. That's got to really warm your heart as a native of Chicagoan to see how well we've done with holding and hosting so many big events, from concerts to NASCAR to our standard bearers of taste of this, taste of that, of how Chicago really just gets stuff done. And it's largely in part because of folks like you and your leadership, but also the participation that you've made and had with the community.
Thank you for that. And actually, I appreciate you framing it that way, because in my brain now, since I'm usually on work mode all the time, once we get to Memorial Day, I'm like, oh, it's budget season. So now we've got to look at all the numbers and figure out what revenue and how are we going to solve a budget. So often I'm kind of a workhorse that way, but it is those moments of community and being outside and loving and appreciating the Chicago I was born and raised in, and understanding it only gets better, right? We have to be the ones that at the end of the day are at the kitchen table looking at the bills and figuring out how we solve it all. But I'm really pleased that more and more generations understand really what Chicago has. I think it's I mean, obviously we're biased, but I think it's the best and most American city in the country. And I think people don't really acknowledge that because of Fox News and everything else. Yeah. But if you come out here during the summer, you're not going to want to leave.
Well, I will say that being biased in that regard, if you're telling the truth, is an okay thing. So we can, we can be biased about that because I think we're both telling the truth. And we need to say that more. I mean, this is one of the things that I've said to Mayor Johnson when we've been blessed to have him on the show, and to the Lieutenant Governor and to many others that we've been so blessed to have on our show, is we have the right to speak about our city and our state and our county and what we're doing, because we are, as you said, Chicago is probably one of the most positively recognizable representations of what we say we are in America. So, I appreciate.
That's right.
I think it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
To your point, it is one of the cities, I would say the most reflective of the whole country, right? Yep. The coasts have their vibes. We've got a little bit of the Midwest. We got a little bit of down south in Chicago, where we have all of it on display. And so I've never, and I think Chicagoans, I remind myself of this, there's never been any naysayer of this city, and I don't care where they're from, there's none of them that live in any city I'd want to trade places with.
That's right.
Not one.
That's right. You nailed it. You nailed it. We've been talking with Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward here in Chicago, who's been such a wonderful leader and such a great representation of what our city looks like and what our city can look like as we go forward. You can't get it done without a good team, and I know you know that, and you've got some really great members of your team. How about if you just give a couple quick shout-outs to the folks that you get to partner with?
Yeah, I mean, on the ward side, we have our chief of staff, Kat Sharp, who's somebody who was an organizer, worked on campaigns before. We've got our director of public safety and infrastructure, Deirdre O'Connor, who's also an elected official in her own right as a district counselor working to hold police accountable. We have Sam Martinez, who's a director of neighbor services. On our committee side, we've got Pooja Ravindran, who was our chief of staff and now is a policy chief on the committee side. Allison Murphy and Diana Perez, who does all these events across the city. Whenever there's a Know Your Rights workshop in the city, she's there. And I'm just lucky enough to be able to work with them in the position, because we really have some great leaders that are developing out here that really make me proud of all the work they do.
Absolutely. As we wrap up, Alderman, talk a little bit about your you've got this thing that you guys have been doing called Ward Night. So just let our listeners know, because I'm a big proponent, and I say it on every show as best I can, get involved. And so let's talk a little bit as we wrap up about Ward Night and then how folks can follow and find you.
Sure, yeah. So Ward Night we do at our office is 5620 Northwestern from 5 to 6:30 every Monday evening, so people can just walk in. And you don't have to be a neighbor in the ward. You can be a neighbor in Chicago, right? So come on in, stop by. You can learn more at our website, 40thward.org. And I think I'll leave this for folks to really chew on and think about, no pun intended. This government is yours. Like, you all out here own it. You're an investor in it because your tax dollars pay for it, right? So you agree in this social contract that your money goes to building this system to make life better for you, and so you are owed a return on that investment. And so when you think of all these elected officials with our little fancy titles and our speechifying and our blazers on, we're your employees, right? We are your employees. You are the boss, and it is incumbent upon you to know what your employees are doing. And I think if you have that kind of mindset, you realize that, I got to go check in on these folks and see, are they actually working in my best interest? And so definitely reach out to us. on social media. I'm at Andre for 40th on almost every platform. I do TikTok videos to explain things. You know what? My phone number, 773-999-7269. You can text at any point. I'm more than happy to respond. I think it's our duty to do so for the taxpayer. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, Rep, I'm so just excited and happy to have had you with us, and you know, I'm glad you're a hometown dude and you understand how great our city is, and you've been one of those persons that said, I'm going to keep the message going and going forward. So thank you so much, Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward here in Chicago, for being with us this morning, and keep up the great work. Love to have you back in the future once we get through the summer and we start looking in the fall. Maybe we'll have you back on again and talk about what you're working on. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Looking forward to it. No, but our neighbors got to know. So, no, thank you for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure. Happy to do it anytime.
Sounds great. Have a great rest of the week. Take care of yourself. Bye now.
Thank you, too. Bye.
Bye-bye. How about that? Alderman Andre Vasquez. I mean, really such great energy and so well informed and committed to the community specifically that he serves, but the broader community of voters here in the state of Illinois. So, and throughout the rest of the country. Really appreciate what he had to say. And yeah, he's an old hip hop guy that understands the value of our music, and Chicago definitely showed out this weekend. Did you guys happen to see the clip of Mayor Johnson drums? Did you see that? That was crazy. I mean, at first I thought, that's not him. Then I was like, that's him. That was really cool to see our mayor, you know, staying on the beat. I mean, it was just really, I thought it was really cool. So there you go. Let's grab a quick call before we get to the top of the hour. Or the bottom of the hour. My goodness. Jim, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. The effort by the Republicans to free Bolsonaro from Brazil is interesting. They throw around the name witch hunt as much as when I did a book report on the Crucible in high school. I've never heard witch hunt used more by a party in my life. But it's amazing the way they want to rehabilitate these dictators.
Yeah.
They're enthralled with them. No matter what, he ran a coup in Brazil. He's accused of assassinating his political opponent. He stole every nickel he could get his hands on. But yet Trump says that it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt.
Yeah. Well, those are words. You see, here's the thing that Trump has done, and that the regime has done, and all these folks that are part of this conversation have done. They found some words and phrases that they can wash, rinse, and repeat over and over again. They found some things that they can say that they're catchy, they're easy to come out of the mouth, people can easily hear them, and they oftentimes are tinged, in fact, most of the time, tinged with some element of fear. Witch hunt. You know, and that's what they've really done. But in actuality, it goes to show, and nobody get offended by this, it goes to show how stupid some people are for not really digging in and researching what the hell they're really talking about. So
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, but the point is, just the word itself it's a 16th century word. It's something that hasn't been brought into the body politics that I can ever remember.
Yeah.
But look at 50% tariffs on Brazil to free this guy. He's in love with this Bolsonaro because Bolsonaro is like a mini him. You know, he's a thief. He's an insurrectionist. You name it.
Yep, it's true.
That's why they're after. That's why they want to get him out. You know, I'm surprised they haven't rehabilitated the last few dictators whenever they came out. You know, let's start with Napoleon. Anyway, thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Jim.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate your call. All right, bye-bye. Jim's always got that gravelly update for us. So thanks, Jim, for your call and contribution this morning. We'll take an early break, Henry. Should we do that? All right, we're going to take an early break. When we come back, we'll be talking with a couple of the folks, most specifically my man Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA and guest Tori Hurst. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-921-8189. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-921-8189. 800-921-8189. 800-921-8189.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the upper 80s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then for tonight, mostly clear with a low near 69. By Tuesday, sunshine, high of 91 degrees. Wednesday, a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. Partial sunshine develops with a high around 91. Tuesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 85. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 70.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Of course, our Credo mobile phone and text number is 773-763-9278. So last week, I talked about this on Monday, and then we were able to pull the clip and play it on Tuesday, I believe it was, or Wednesday. And it's a clip about Republicans changing their minds. And it was an interview that Allison Camerata did with, I think, 8 or 9 folks who had voted Republican in this last election. Our guests, when we bring them on, Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA and Victoria Hurst, we'll talk about this all kind of rolled in together. But I want you guys to hear this clip again, and then I want to ask Rich a couple questions. Let's hit him with that, Henry.
I just want to say to every American that's having trouble with this, I am sorry I voted for him. I regret it with all my heart. I feel like I've enabled this monster to destroy democracy, destroy everything that is good in this country.
We've got a very crazy man driving the train, and he's going to kill this country.
And Anthony, are you voting a straight up and down Democratic ticket?
Not only there, I am actually for the very first time contributing across the board, across the country. And I've never, ever written a check or spent any money on anything political because I'm afraid. I'm afraid.
I've been a lifelong Republican since the day I turned 18. For the first time in my life, I'm going to vote a straight Democratic ticket. Is if they're connected to Donald Trump, they are not connected to me.
So you now are no longer a Republican?
I am not, no.
Because of Donald Trump?
Because of Donald Trump. It was no longer the party that I joined. It's morphed into something that's almost unrecognizable.
You were a lifelong Republican.
Right.
If somebody had told you, say 15 years ago, that you are preparing to vote a straight up and down Democratic ticket in the midterms, you would have said what to them?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So why are you now doing it?
To see Republicans not stand up to him, and the ones that do are just quitting.
I just think there's no values left anymore. There should be values. We have no values. He doesn't have any values. I thought he had values.
No, I'm definitely voting Democrat. I've been knocking on doors. I got a clipboard.
You're even canvassing.
I am canvassing for a Democrat in Wyoming.
That's how strongly you feel.
I believe hardly anything the president says, but I do believe he's a danger to this country and to our democracy. I'm going to fight every day.
Like I said, great interview, a great segment that Allison put together. With us this morning is Rich Logis, who's been with us before from Leaving MAGA, and his guest / our guest, Tori Victoria Hurst, who is an individual that actually crossed the divide, crossed that bridge that Rich has put together in terms of folks who were part of MAGA that have left MAGA. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being with us this morning on the show.
Thanks, Rich. Good to be with you again here. Good morning to everyone.
Hey, Tori. Good morning and welcome to the show. Don't be nervous.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, Rich, I wanted to play that clip for you both because, that's probably more broadly people who may not have said they were part of MAGA necessarily, but they were Republican voters that have shifted. And so talk about that. When you heard that, you may have heard the clip in other venues, but I played it last week and I wanted to play it again today as we intro into you guys. Talk a little bit about that as it may merge with some of the thought processes that you have been able to see and hear as part of leaving MAGA.
Well, I think, Rich, that there have been cracks within MAGA for some time, albeit they may have been on the small side. But I think people who are in MAGA are going to hear more and more of partisan Republicans who can no longer, for a variety of reasons, support the president. And, leaving MAGA, it's not just about acknowledging mistakes and admitting that we believe lies. What makes it so hard to leave is, and Tori will get into this, is walking away from a community and transforming our identity and our being and our personhood, because being in MAGA is not just it's not just about politics or ideology. It's really about one's identity. And I don't have a problem with others facing the consequences of their choices, but this is a point, Rich, I've made before, and if I may, I want to reiterate, saying I told you so or some of the memes we see, it's going to drive MAGA Americans back to MAGA. And we want those who are in MAGA who are starting to have some doubts, we want them to listen to those doubts and question their beliefs. And those who are willing to change and they seek genuine penitence and contrition, I would ask others out there to consider offering grace to those who are willing to change their minds, just like those who were in that segment.
Yeah, I mean, that segment was really eye-opening for a lot of people, and I've gotten a lot of response from it, and I've seen it be presented in other venues, because a lot of people, may not understand that. I'll put it this way. I don't want to speak for other people. I will say it from my own observation. I legitimately know in my heart people made a mistake. They got hoodwinked. They got bamboozled. I recognize that. And there are also people who were looking for an opportunity to let whatever's going on inside of their brain or in their being be played up to as part of that trend. And so either way, I look at it and say, as long as people recognize that happened, that they, in their own words, made a mistake, they maybe weren't clear, but now that they've made the cross the bridge, whether it be away from the GOP or away from MAGA, that they now recognize the work that needs to be done. And in many cases, it's helping more people get away, move away, cross the bridge to the extent that, that you've been able to put together with leaving MAGA. So I hear what you're saying. Let me, Victoria, let's ask you a couple questions. And first of all, thanks for being with us this morning. Tell us as much as you can a little bit of your story, how things started, how you evolved to and then evolved away from MAGA.
Yeah, so the Cliff Notes version of that is I was 17 years old when Trump announced his bid for presidency. And I was living in an ultra-conservative part of Florida. I was really, really poor, and I don't say that to excuse my choices. I just add that for context. Super poor to the point where my parents didn't pay our electric bill for a few weeks in the Florida heat. And I had friends whose parents would allow me to do side jobs at their house to help me buy school clothes and stuff like that. And they all kind of turned out to be MAGA Republicans. So then I turn 18. We're in the depths of him announcing his candidacy. I have all of these adults, and granted at 18 you are an adult, but you're still really finding your footing. I had all these adults around me who I trusted, who had helped me, telling me, hey, if you don't want to be poor, this is the way you need to go. Republicans are the party of the wealthy. So all of that's happening. And then Trump says something about how he's not going to draw a salary. And as somebody who was living poorer than paycheck to paycheck, I was like, well, man, if he's not going to draw a salary, he really has to be in it for the right reasons. And that's the Cliff Notes of kind of why I got in. When I left, my firmest reason for leaving was January 6th, but I didn't actually find out how bad January 6th was until 2 years after it happened. I was in college. I was watching a documentary by PBS about January the 6th. It was assigned by one of my professors, and I was sitting next to my husband in the car. I was watching it on my iPad while we were on a road trip, and I looked at him and I said, "Did this really happen?" And from there, MAGA preaches itself as the party of loving its country. And I've always been a patriotic person, and I could not piece together a party that's supposed to love its country but also attacked its capital because it disagreed with something.
Yeah. So I have to ask you a question. You said earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt you, that people around you, Tori, were saying things like the Republican Party / MAGA is the party of the wealthy. How did that strike you? And then when you juxtapose that against the Republican Party is the party of the working man and woman, talk a little bit about that and your landscape of that view.
Yeah. Well, so again, like everything for me at that point in my life was based on personal experience and not actual research or broader knowledge. And so everybody that I knew that lived a comfortable life, like specifically one of my friends, the dad worked, the mom stayed at home, and she would buy me jewelry from like the Home Shopping Network. And I couldn't even afford to go buy a new bathing suit for the summer. And this woman was like giving me gifts all the time. And I was like, well, clearly these people are in a better spot financially than I am, so I should rely on their knowledge. And they weren't like mega wealthy or anything. They were working class people. They were doing a little bit better than paycheck to paycheck. And similarly, my best friend in the whole wide world when I was in high school, her parents both worked. Her dad worked for an electric company. Her mom did medical billing and coding, but they owned their house. They owned a brand new diesel truck. They owned a boat. They owned an RV. And so to me, based on the people around me, I was like, these are normal people living the type of life I want. I don't necessarily need massive excess. I just need stability and a couple of little luxuries here and there.
So that is kind of what you saw as maybe folks doing better. Wealthy may not have necessarily been however that was defined, but it was that group of people and those who were in your immediate setting represented that. And then they happen, it sounds like, to have had a political belief that it was due to them being part of the Republican Party. Am I understanding that correctly? That provided them with that sort of life experience?
Yes. So they would talk a lot about tax codes and how the Democrats just want to take all your money via taxes. And that led into a lot of conversations about social safety nets being a scam to them. And at that point, I was paying taxes, and I was like, you know what, you're right. They are taking 18% of my paycheck. I could use that 18%. I'm not getting any social handouts right now. And I lacked the comprehension of the nuance of those conversations.
Okay. So talk about January 6th. And I mean, I know that there's a big spread of people's views of January 6th, but the facts don't change of what happened, how it happened, and what's happened since then during the Biden administration and now. So help me, help all of us understand what was going on with you. You said you didn't know, you weren't aware of it, and you became aware of it. How did that strike you, and how did you deal with the fact that you didn't know?
Yeah, so during January 6th, and this just, again, I'm not excusing anything. I always try to make that clear. Like, I take full accountability for my choices. So during January 6th, I had just lost my mom and dad, or I lost my mom and grandpa during COVID. They both died within a month of each other. And then I had just become a mother, and my husband and I were getting a divorce, and there was just so much going on in my life. And I heard people kind of talking about January 6th and the election was stolen. And I remember just feeling so apathetic. And I was like, you know what? I really want Trump to win, but I'm not in a spot to do anything about it. So I just kind of checked out. Like, I was just like, well, sucks. We've got Biden. Oh, well. When I did find out about January 6th, but like I said, it was when I was in college, it really shifted a lot for me. Sorry, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment there.
That's
it
okay.
shifted a lot for me because I could not understand how this party of people who supposedly love America so much, they wear their American flags and they talk about making America great. No matter where you stand or if you believe an election was stolen, it is never okay to do the things that they did, such as the gallows for Mike Pence or storming the Capitol. Like, that is, you attacked your own country. And for me, like, I'm from a military family. My current husband, he's a disabled veteran. Like, there is no rectifying a love of America with a violent attack on our own country. Like, it is okay to protest. It is okay to be angry. It is okay to have differing views. But I draw the hard line at violence and attempting to overthrow our government.
So what do you do with people who say to you, let me back up. I don't want to make an assumption here, Tori. I apologize. If and when someone comes your way in whatever way, and they say that January 6th was, as the phrase goes, it was a group of tourists that were going to check out things at the Capitol, blah, 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 or they try to excuse it. And I got no issue with you not knowing. If things were going on in your life and you weren't aware, hey, at least you've stepped up now and said, gosh, that was wrong, and in a major way. But how do you deal with folks that may come your way that say that it was right, or that now that he's pardoned so many of the folks that were a part of this, how do you navigate through that?
Well, there are so many different schools of thought on it, right? So there are whole groups of people who will tell you that it was staged by the Democrats. And there are whole groups of people who will tell you that it didn't really happen that way, that it wasn't violent, and that people didn't die, and that it's all lies by the media. And then there are people who say it's right. And usually I'll try to start to have a conversation based in fact of, did people wrongfully enter areas they were not permitted in? And then they'll come up with excuses. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Generally speaking, unless the person I'm talking to wants to have a conversation and wants to, maybe shift their viewpoint, it ends with me being like, hey, we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. But I've done enough research to know that my viewpoint is based in fact.
That's right, Tori. You got to let them know. You know what? Because a lot of times when that phrase is, okay, we have to agree to disagree, that's a great way to button it up. So keep using that one and share it with all of your friends and all of your colleagues that have left MAGA. When someone says that, you have to be still willing to say, but these are still the facts. Because I think a lot of times people use that and they walk away from the conversation and nothing, not that something gets resolved, but people still don't know where you really, really stand. So kudos to you for saying it or trying your best to do it that way. And listen, I can be a hardline dude. I know that. But I also recognize, and I've said this so many times in my life, the grace that we give each other is based on the grace that we give ourselves. And so when we make a mistake, we hope that whomever we turn to for our guidance will give us some space to make up for what we've done wrong. I use the phrase here on the show, and Rich has heard me use it, clean up on aisle 7. I say something that's not quite right. If I get a text or an email, hey, Richard, I try to make sure I rectify that as quickly as I can. You are doing that now. So what is it like on the other side? What are you doing to embrace and bring more folks through this process? And I always tip my hat to Rich, and I know that, Tori is the one that's really sharing her story. But what are you doing, literally, to help people cross that bridge and get to this side and be on this side, if you will?
Yeah, so for me, it's a two-part approach. So I am a Democratic Party precinct chair now. I regularly protest
Wait. Hold on, Tori. Hold on. Wait a minute. Say that one more time. You used to be part of MAGA, and you are what now?
I'm a Democratic Party precinct chair. Yeah.
Keep going.
So I do a lot of block walking for progressive candidates. I protest with the larger organizations that are out there organizing right now, and I'm a part of a couple of their national committees. And then on the other side of things, I think I take full accountability when I'm in new spaces. I'm very fortunate that I get along with most people that I meet. So I'll be out in the community protesting or doing mutual aid, and people will ask me a little bit about myself. I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm actually former MAGA. because I want people to see people who were MAGA as human. I want them to see the humanity, see examples of people who were in MAGA out in the community trying to make change, who have made a full transformation. And then there are obviously people I know who are still in MAGA. And that's where it gets tricky, right? Like, there are people I've had to cut off because, unfortunately, they are so deeply in delusion that there is no conversation, to the point where, like, I will post a meme or something and I'll get a nasty message in my inbox about how somebody was attacked by an illegal immigrant. And I'm like, how did you know they were an illegal immigrant while they were attacking you? But we're not even going to get into that right now. But then there's a lot of people who are kind of on the fence and leaving those doors open and not waiting for that gotcha moment. And MAGA trains you to wait for that gotcha. Like, you are so trained to be nasty to people and to, like, want to win. So I have a really good friend who voted for Trump in this last election, and it hurt my soul a little bit, but I've always left that door open for conversation. And just a couple of weeks ago, they came to me and they said, hey, he's doing a lot of weird stuff, huh? And I, set my stuff down really, really quietly, and I was like, yeah, he is doing a lot of weird stuff. You want to elaborate on what you find weird today? Mm-hmm. And it, like, opens that door for conversations. So you can't just outright be nasty to people because it shuts them down completely. They need space to ask those questions. And I'm really fortunate. My husband and his family provided me a lot of space to ask a lot of really uncomfortable questions with grace I probably did not deserve. So I do feel like it's my duty specifically to pass that on to other people and try to get other people into. And I'm really careful to not, like, say I want to shift them to my viewpoint entirely. Obviously, I think my viewpoints are right. But I want people to make educated decisions. I want them to understand how to do the research and what is reality versus this false reality that a lot of people are living in.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about what can be done when you do find it in yourself to give people an opportunity to rectify. I've been of the mindset that says, okay, great. I'm going to simplify this for you. Now that you've crossed, not you specifically, Tori, now that you've crossed the bridge back and you understand that the mistakes that you made, you got to do some work to rectify. You got to be a participant, which is why I wanted you to say again what you're currently doing in terms of your participation with the Democratic Party and working in that regard. I have last Friday on my show, I talked about something that, just not meant to be too nerdy or too in the weeds, but I made the reference to something my mother used to tell me about, getting quiet and let things be quiet for a moment. And I said this in the vein of, I wonder if folks that are part of MAGA, and I knew you guys are going to be on today, so I said it sort of as a preamble. If folks that have been part of MAGA, if part of your journey was that you had a moment where you had to get quiet and you had to just slow everything down and say, what the heck am I doing here? Did that ever occur for you? And Rich, you can even chime in on that, but let's let Tori answer first.
Yeah, and I kind of know Rich's answer to this because he and I have talked about it. There's a period of time before you start to, like, say, hey, I don't believe in this, I'm denouncing this, where you do get very quiet because there's, like, I missed answering this earlier when we were talking about January the 6th. When I found out that happened and I completely missed it, I was a little bit heartbroken because I realized that I was living in a false reality. Like, no real human being would miss somebody trying to violently overthrow our government. So there was a lot of embarrassment and shame and, sadness over missing that. And so I did get really quiet, and I became entirely apolitical for probably a good 7 months before I started framing opinions and trying to do better.
Got it. I mean, it was one of those things where I said, and I was just wondering how many people have told themselves that this can't be right. I've got to change, or I've got to see change, and it's going to have to start with me. So, Rich, you want to take a moment and answer that question or thought process in your own words.
My doubts, Rich, started in the summer of 2021, and there were a lot of quiet nights in solitude, just my thoughts and I. And what really accelerated my eventual leaving of MAGA is similar to Tori's experience, which is I diversified my news and information sources. And when that happens amongst those who are in MAGA, the aperture opens really wide. It goes from sealed shut to even ever so slowly opening and widening, and come to realize that so much of what we believed was false. And in my case, it wasn't just a belief or two, it was years and years of accumulated beliefs. And it's why it's so crucial to do exactly what Tori said, which is to have the friendly ear, not try to persuade someone with facts and policy, because that doesn't work, but that people know that if they're having doubts, and they can come to their friends and family who are not in MAGA and can come to them without judgment, ostracization. That's why friends and family, Rich, are our allies. And I'll ask everyone who's listening, not to give up on their friends and family who are still in the thrall of MAGA, because I do believe there's going to be a gradual and then sudden all at once leaving amongst people, and it's going to start with doubts. And we want people to listen to those doubts in their conscience.
Yeah. And that was kind of the basis of me positioning that last week, because it's one of the things that fortunately my mother made clear to me when I was a young boy, and as I got older. But Tori, thanks for being with us. Thanks for your heartfelt comments and your observations about yourself and about what you've gone through, and now the work that you're doing on the other side to try to make a way for people who are in that same position and trying to find a way, as I call it, find a way home. And Rich, again, to you, thanks for putting together an organization and founding an organization that is designed to help bring some humanity back to this conversation and provide people with what I've deemed as the bridge to get connected again. So thanks to you both for being with us this morning. And as always, Rich, I appreciate the hard work and the time that you put in. And Tori, keep up the good work. You guys, I'm going to say it. I appreciate the work that you guys are putting in, because I know that it can be tough for people who got bamboozled for whatever reason to find a way back and to be able to reconnect to some sanity. So thanks to you both.
Hey, Rich, thank you. If I may just direct everyone to our site, they can read more about Tori as well as our other leaders at leavingmaga.org. Make sure everyone's getting on our newsletters and subscribe. I will say that we've never been busier, and we appreciate all the support out there. So everyone can go to our site, leavingmaga.org, and stay updated with what we're doing.
Absolutely. All right, guys, thanks for being with us. Tori, take care. Thanks for being with us. And Rich, thanks as always for being a part of the show. You guys have a great week, okay?
You too. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now. Hey, guys, you know me. I'm going to fight hard and fight hard as hell to get done when we got to get done. And this is a component of it. I've said before, we don't need to go searching for the folks that don't want to participate and don't want to do the work. They're there, but they got to, if they cross that bridge, they got to be willing to do the work. And I think that Victoria is someone that's done that. She's made it clear that not only have I got to shift back, but once I get back, I've got work to do. And I think we all want to see that. We want to see the people that are shifting back, not just shift back for sake of shifting back, but now what are you going to do to make up for some of the harm that you probably caused, if not directly, indirectly by association? And so, I'm going to be the one to say that, and good on both of them. So let's squeeze in one last call. Our man George in Oak Park has been holding. George, thanks for holding. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. You know that on Jane Pauley's CBS Sunday morning, they had that segment called In Memoriam,
right?
About from the previous week who had passed away, and then they showed how a lot of people, how Texas has, among other things, regarding the flood. The state of Texas has 20% of the floods in the lower 48 states. That means one in every five floods occurs in Texas.
Yep.
And, people in Chicago, they know that the weather changes in an instant. It can be hot, and then 1 minute later it can be cold. Texans know that there are going to be floods. So when the Biden administration attempted to offer some municipalities in Texas something like flood insurance or benefits, something like that, the Texans in that community rejected it because they did not want to be indoctrinated by the Biden's communist,
socialist. Yeah. They
you know what?
They didn't do the thing that they should have done to take care of the people there with the funds that were available.
That's right. So therefore, and why did they believe that? Is because they get that right-wing radio commentary. One of those commentators is muttering, stuttering Chris Plant, who's constantly yelling about the left wing being communist, being fascist, being Marxist, and all that. So, and those Texans, they bought into that lie.
Yeah,
but what do they got to show for it? Fatalities.
They did, George, and that's you're right on point in highlighting that. I didn't get a chance to talk about that, but thank you for that contribution. George, as always, thanks for being with us, man. Have a great week, and we'll talk with you soon, okay? Bye now.
Thanks, Richard.
All right, bye-bye. George from Oak Park. Thanks to our guests, to Tori and to Rich from Leaving MAGA, to our local leader, Andre Vasquez from the 40th Ward, and then as well as our earlier guests in the show. So we really appreciate everybody being with us, Rich and Tori, Alderman Vasquez, and Reid McCollum from Progressive Turnout Project. Turnout, guys, get involved. And as I say at the end of every show, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.
Gandhi is credited for saying, "A society is judged by how it treats its most vulnerable." Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Pellick from Total Dentistry. We live in a country full of opportunity and innovation, yet somehow our healthcare system still leaves too many behind. Dental insurance benefits haven't kept up with modern care. Most maximums haven't changed. So where does that leave working families and businesses? We believe change starts locally. That's why we created the Total Care Plan from Total Dentistry, an annual membership that gives you cleanings, x-rays, and 15 to 20% off dental work. No caps, no limits. A dental plan that is centered around you, not your insurance. In our communities, we want to lift each other up, not wait for someone else to fix it. So if you're looking for a dental plan that suits you, visit us at totaldentistry.org or call 847-358